Perspective Shift is brought to you by fdailycoaching.com. If you're seeking assistance to help navigate you through a difficult time or feel challenged to reach your full potential, Frank Daly can guide you to a perspective that will allow you to utilize your imagination and experience a more fulfilling and satisfying life. Frank has been working with people for over 20 years as a coach, helping them understand the power they have to transform their lives.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Frank. Welcome
Tanya.
to Perspective Shift, Tanya.
Yeah. How you doing, Tanya?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming
absolutely.
out. Yeah, thanks
Glad
for
to have you on the show.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about Tanya. Tanya is local here in Arizona. We are very lucky to have our special guest. Tanya, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? So, Tanya is well, I should start by saying your name. It's Tanya Paty, correct?
Yes,
So
correct.
Tanya Paty, she's here in Arizona. She is a breathwork instructor. She is a certified breathwork instructor. And so we thought it would be a special treat for everybody at home to bring somebody on who knows what they're talking about when it comes to the breathwork. People know Frank and I love this. It's a good way to get out of the thinking mind and get into your true self. So why don't we turn it over to you, Tanya? Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Mm-hmm. So I have been a certified breathwork instructor for about 3 years, and I run a local group here, which is actually how Mike and I met.
Yep.
Mike came to one of my breathwork sessions. I run a local live breathwork group here out of my home studio, and we meet twice a month, and we do live breathwork sessions there. I'm also a Pilates instructor, which I don't know if you knew. So
cool.
I've been doing that for 10 years, and I would say breathwork kind of came out of just a continuation of my constant searching for personal growth. Is kind of how it happened. And that's also how I got into Pilates. And it was interesting that my move from, when I look back at where I started with Pilates and where I am now, I realized that the central theme sort of through all of my progressions of my own personal career and work was all about personal alignment. Yeah. And Pilates was the physical personal alignment. And then I started taking other certifications and always sort of adding to my toolbox, and I kept noticing they're all about alignment. They're all about connection with the self. They're all about helping my clients become more aware of their own body, their own journey, what brought them to me, what is happening in their life, and then breathwork, just kind of naturally came out that I was on vacation with my partner, and I think something came across my Instagram.
Okay.
Feed or something.
So,
Well, real quick, what's Pilates? We have people all over listening, so I want to make sure anybody who doesn't know what that is.
Okay. So Pilates is a type of exercise that really focuses on, everybody thinks of Pilates as, core work, and it's really about the core. But when we realize that the core is really from your pelvis to your shoulders, it's really your postural muscles. So everything is core work if you're doing it correctly. So Pilates was actually invented by a man named Joseph Pilates. Yeah. Oh. Most people associate Pilates with women, but it was actually created by a German gentleman named Joseph Pilates. He had quite a stocky build. He was a boxer. He was a gymnast. He trained police for exercise and self-defense. And so Pilates is not a women's...
That's funny. Yeah, most people absolutely assume, Pilates class, it's all women. Yeah.
Well, when he came
Frank's
to
a
the
boxer,
States,
by the way. I'll throw that out there. His whole life, since he's been a kid.
So when Joseph Pilates came to the States and came to New York, he actually started getting referrals from injured dancers because he was right down there in the middle of New York City where all of the ballet studios were. And I think that's kind of what happened was when these injured ballet dancers started coming to him and having sprained ankle but working on their hip, not working on their ankle, getting their alignment back, strengthening their core, then people in that industry started coming in. I think that that's kind of when it started getting associated with women and more of that. But it uses equipment. It also uses just body weight.
Okay.
And it's really about lengthening, toning, connecting to your center, realizing that all movement starts from our center, just as everything.
Yeah.
Everything starts from the center.
I love that.
Yeah, because me and Mike were talking about this last time. It was like, I think a couple episodes ago. We were talking about the human body, and there's an energy flow going through. We all know it. But if it's actually kinked, like a hose is kinked, that was the example I was using, the water doesn't flow properly, but we know there's something wrong. But like I was telling Mike on the podcast I was talking about it, it's as if we're stepping on the hose, but we know the water should be coming fully. Mm-hmm. So when we actually start to create our body in a better position, move it, the energy flows. So that's the good feeling. Because I know a lot of times people get mistaken about, like Pilates, they're trying to get somewhere with it. It's actually a realignment with the body. When you do that, the energy flows. That's what you're searching for, the energy flow, not the stronger muscles or what have you, or those are byproducts of it. That's what happens. Yeah. So a lot of times with working out, people are looking for the end result, where in the midst of working out, you're aligning your body. Because in sports, if your body's aligned, you're off balance. And I learned about breath work through boxing. Yeah. Because, you know, it's one of the sports where you have a mouthpiece in, so you have to breathe in your nose and gently out your mouth, or else you get hurt. Mm-hmm. So I learned as a young child how to breathe in my nose and out my mouth, where other sports, no one talked about that at that time anyway. But it was about positioning, getting in line. But at the time, I didn't intellectually know that. It was just, I knew if I was out of position, and I knew when I was in position.
Mm-hmm. By what? Feeling.
Oh, the feeling, the energy would flow. It would be like getting in the zone is what we call it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all know these things inherently.
Yeah, so using the physical body can teach us to get into the flow. But like now, because I have a good buddy of mine, he was in a bad motorcycle accident, and he's not going to be able to walk for about 6 months, the doctor tells him. Mm-hmm. But I went over his house, and I mean, he's home now, but when I went to the hospital, we started doing breath work.
Yeah.
I'm like, because your mind, if you're breathing, depending on breathing, your mind doesn't know if you're sprinting or sitting. It doesn't know the difference if you're doing the actually breathing. Mm-hmm. So he's a very physical guy. So I said, let's just do some high rapid breath work. And his body started healing better again. So, and it also took him out of the state like, holy shit, I can't walk for 6 months, you know.
And for those listening, Frank's talking about the guest we've had on twice, Jeff Mugongo.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you were doing that with him.
Well, it's also a lot about neuroplasticity.
Yes.
You know, that
I love that you bring that up.
That we can change, you know, our neural pathways. Yeah. And we can change, like you said, the body doesn't know if we're sitting or running. The body doesn't know, the mind doesn't know if we're imagining it or if it's real.
Yeah.
So we can recreate ourselves however we want to by just coming into the place of really imagining something to the point where it is so clear that we are experiencing it right now in this moment, because it's about coming into vibrational coherence with that thing that we're desiring. So desiring health, desiring coming back to a healthy body. Joe Dispenza, if you know him, you know, was in a horrible spinal
Dr. Joe.
spinal injury,
you
know, and here he is, completely healthy, horseback riding, mountain climbing, everything, you know.
Frank did do his advanced retreat.
I did
Loved
too.
it.
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah.
Which one did you do? Did you do the one in Mexico?
No, we were.
That's where Frank was at.
We were in Florida, in
Marco Island.
Marco Island. Yeah.
Nice. Was it amazing?
Yes.
Yeah, Frank loved his too. Yeah, I remember he would reach out and, Mike, you got to try this. Yeah.
My favorite was actually when we started at 4 a.m. and did like our 4 or 5 hour one.
Yeah,
I'm sure you had some crazy lucid ones. Yeah.
That was the pineal gland meditation.
Well, in that at the time where the door's kind of most wide open, you know, the veil's the thinnest between, you know, the realms, if you will. He always talks about that 4 a.m. kind of period where, you know, our body is something the way.
Yeah, the chemical, you're still working with melatonin. You didn't actually started producing the serotonin yet. So when sunlight comes up, we stop producing serotonin. So he wanted to get the height of melatonin and to shoot it into the serotonin. That's why we started at like 4 a.m. So it's still dark out. But that's all breath work.
Yep.
Like the breathing he was doing, like he says we were laying on the ground, breathing in and out, like hyperventilating.
Yes.
Yeah, and then holding it, squeezing it up into the pineal gland, and doing that for 4.5, 5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that sounds amazing.
It was intense.
And
but,
it goes so fast you don't even realize it. I remember when it was over, I thought I could do this all day.
Right.
Yeah, I remember doing it. I thought it was because he didn't tell you how long it was going to be. You know.
Well, yeah, he didn't want to psych you out.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and so it felt like about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, "Dude, that was 4.5 hours."
Dude, that was
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
That's really cool.
I did a lot of research before going in, though, so I knew
Yeah.
that was going to be.
Yeah, my wife is upset with me because I never do research. I just like, where is
jump
it? I'm
right
like,
in.
it's I'll have the cab drive take me. I have no idea. I'll just go. She's
I'll
like,
figure it out.
what do you do when you get there? I'm like, they'll tell me what to do.
Yeah,
So-
when you're connected.
Yeah, so talk more about the connection with the breath work and the physical body and how they correlate. Because a lot of times, too, people are always asking about the chicken and egg type of theory. And I'm like, the human mind doesn't need to know if the chicken and egg came first. They just know how to, take care of the chicken so it lays really good eggs.
Yeah.
It's really all that matters. And so there is a correlation with the physical body with breathing, because I know when you work out in the involuntary system, it's breathing differently. Now, if you're not conscious of it, it might not be good or bad. But if you're conscious, like you're bringing people's conscious awareness to actual breathing, the benefits are greater. We know that. And actually now, even when I work out, because I started this, I actually focus on my breath work when I'm lifting. Where before I was just lifting and trying to get as much oxygen as I can. Now it's like, no, that's how I prime myself. And then the lifting, it's just this nice flow. Yeah.
Well, people often they don't think about breathing because it's something that our autonomic nervous system controls. But it's the one thing that that's part of our autonomic nervous system that we can take conscious control over. And so people think, well, what do you mean breathe? What do I need to know about breathing? We all do it all the time. We don't have to think about it. We just breathe. But breathing is so connected to our autonomic nervous system. It has such an effect on so many systems in our body that if we aren't breathing properly, and I know you guys said that you had a podcast with
Matthias de Stefano.
and his 3 things are, laughter and
Breathing.
breathing, and it's breathing in through the nose and out through the nose.
And he's specific about the nose, and I'm glad you kind of touch on that. I do want to talk more about that because there's different types of breathing. But keep going.
So the breath being part of our autonomic nervous system, yet we can take conscious control of it, means that we actually have a doorway into our autonomic nervous system. So when we inhale, that stimulates our sympathetic nervous system. That's our fight, flight, react nervous system. And when we exhale, we are activating our parasympathetic nervous system, and that's our restore, calm down, recovery. So that's the first thing that we can do. When we manipulate our breath, we can be more in our sympathetic or parasympathetic, or we can be more balanced. So the more rapidly we breathe and the more shallowly we breathe, we're in our sympathetic nervous system. So this is key because it's very hard to do it yourself, but if you can ever time your breathing, you'll notice that most of us breathe 12 to 15 breaths per second. Per minute.
Which is
it's supposed to be about 7.
Which is hyperventilating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. I've
Yes.
heard that before.
Yeah, is it correct? It's supposed to be around 7.
Yeah. So like
Half of what we're normally breathing?
4 to 8 breaths per minute
Yeah.
is really about where we should be. 6 breaths per minute is a really nice
Now,
place
do
to
your
be.
clients, when you teach them breath work, because this is what happened with me, do they notice by doing your type of breath work, all of a sudden when their involuntary system kicks in, they're actually breathing less per minute and more deeply? Like the body learns to, because you can't always consciously think about it. So even at night, you're not conscious, but your breathing actually flows better by doing this type of work during the conscious day. Yeah.
And the way that we actually change what your unconscious breathing is what triggers us to take a breath is the level of CO2 in our body. And that triggers our brainstem to take a breath. Now, we all think CO2 is just a waste material and something that we exhale, and it's a byproduct of cellular metabolism. But CO2 is this very important gas in our body because CO2 is what tells our blood to release oxygen out of the blood and into the cells. So if we don't have enough CO2, we're actually not getting our oxygen out of our blood and into our cells and tissues. So as we begin to raise our tolerance to higher levels of CO2, we'll trigger our brainstem less frequently to breathe. So the way that we go about lowering our unconscious breathing is by doing exercises that raise our CO2 tolerance levels.
That makes a lot of sense.
So we do that with things like breath holds and slow exhales. CO2 is also a bronchial and vasodilator, so it's really important that we have proper CO2 in our body to open up our blood vessels for good circulation and getting our blood and oxygen up to our brain and to all of our organs. So when we are breathing at our 12, 15 breaths per minute rate, we're actually blowing off a lot of CO2. So we have very low levels of CO2 in our body, which means our system is constricted because oxygen is a constrictor and CO2 is a dilator. So we're actually over-oxygenated, but it's trapped and it's causing corrosion, inflammation, just like oxygen makes metal rust. We're getting that same sort of reaction inside our body from having too much oxygen trapped in our body and not getting into our cells and tissues and metabolized. So it's one of the main reasons of inflammation. And as we know, inflammation is the root of so many diseases.
Every disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember hearing this years ago, but an alkaline system cannot be disease-ridden.
Yeah.
And it's due to that lack of or poor oxygen level.
I really want to hit home for people listening. We're taking like 15 breaths a minute. That is so many.
At rest.
Yeah,
like
at
just
rest,
sitting,
at
watching
resting
television.
state. Yeah, just watching TV, doing our normal daily routine. That is, so like, that's something I remember when I heard that statistic at first, I became really conscious of that because I was like, wow, that is a lot. And I had no idea we are essentially supposed to be half, if not less than half that rate. You're saying like 6 to 8 is a good range for that. Right now, where you're at, Tanya, do you feel like you are in a 6 to 8 breath range?
I'm more at about 10.
See, that's and how long did it take you to get to that stage?
I didn't really start paying attention and counting my breaths per minute until probably just this last 6 months.
Oh, really? So it's been a recent thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you noticed? That's why I brought it up. Have you noticed a great, change in how you're feeling?
Yes, because when we are breathing faster, we're in our sympathetic nervous system. That's fight or flight. So that means just
High beta.
Yes.
Yep, brainwaves.
Just sitting on the couch watching television, you have stress hormones racing through your body because your body thinks you're in stress. And we're not ever releasing out of that stress into our parasympathetic. So we're in stress all the time, and not allowing the body to recover. And also, when we are breathing more quickly, we actually have more thoughts. So when we breathe more slowly, we have less thoughts.
It's like the wind and clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah. More wind and more clouds.
And when we have more thoughts, strangely, they start to become more stressful. And that brings our emotional state into what we would tend to categorize as our lower emotions.
Yeah.
Fear, anxiety, panic, stress starts leading into anger, depression, sense of hopelessness, feeling out of control. So when we are breathing slower, we're more in our parasympathetic nervous system. Those stress hormones aren't racing through our body. Our heart rate is not elevated. Our blood is circulating. We're getting better oxygen to our brain. We're getting better oxygen to our cells and tissues. We're having less thoughts. We're more calm, which means we can assess things better. We can be present and in the moment, and we can choose our response rather than react. And our emotions then also tend to be on what we term the higher scale, feeling at peace, feeling connected, feeling calm, feeling serene, feeling happy, feeling joyful, feeling love. So our breath is so powerful. And so when we understand that that is a tool that we have right within us all the time, that in any moment we can choose to change our physical being, our mental state, our emotional state, and it's all within our power. And it's just as simple as, how am I breathing?
And as we start to connect, because I'll use this analogy a lot, like when you watch a movie like James Bond, and when you look at the character James Bond plays, like whether he's at a bar drinking martinis or he's being shot at, he remains in this very calm disposition. The reason we like that character is because we know we all ought to be like that. So the world is kind of like a James Bond film. So by utilizing breath work, it's not about stopping stress or situation, circumstance that make you stress. It's about not getting stressed about the situation, circumstance, because you're not going to stop the clouds. You could just seemingly slow them down. Or like the Matrix, he didn't really slow the bullets down. It was just his vision of the bullets slowed down. So he was able to take them on one at a time. And that's really what it is. Because people in the world today, we're trying to avoid situation, circumstance. Like,
Good
you
luck.
can't avoid that. But taking
Well,
conscious hold of your system will actually make it seem like there's nothing to avoid.
and there's no need to control life. We are meant to be here to experience life. We're meant to be here to experience the diversity of it. And it's not about controlling it. It's about, who am I and how am I responding? Am I here as a vibration and a frequency of love? Or am I here as a reaction of fear and feeling a victim and disconnected?
Yeah.
So life is supposed to happen. There's supposed to be variety and contrast. There's supposed to be challenges for us to learn from and to understand how to grow from that. We don't want to be, picking daisies all the time.
Yeah. And anyone that's ever pushed that type of stuff have never achieved it anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
they never have. So now we're getting back into, it's like I've heard it said different ways, but life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you or within you. And when you start looking at it that way, well, people are like, okay, that sounds good on a t-shirt, but how do I deal with it? Well, take control of your thoughts or your body. When you control your vibration that you're putting out, your brain waves, just slow them down. And obviously breath work is the quickest way. So I remember when I used to box, when I would get out in the ring, my dad would never tell me what punch to throw. He just said, relax. I would hear it from the corner. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting punched. Like,
Taking hits to the face, Dad.
But I remember the first day, I was probably like, I started boxing at a really young age, but it was probably around 13 years old when I stepped in the ring and I was relaxed. It just happened. But it was him the whole time, not telling me what. Now, once I learned to relax, now he was saying what punch to throw. But he said, relax, breathe. For like years, that's all he's saying. I'm like, Dad, you got any more advice? I keep getting hit.
Got any better advice, Pop?
I'm getting hit, Dad.
I'm getting my ass kicked. That's hilarious.
But it kicked in, and I realized what he was talking about the whole time. And then all of a sudden, it became a dance. It was no longer a grunting thing. It was a dance, and it was beautiful.
You're in the flow.
Yeah. And so I carried that throughout my day, and I didn't realize it. Now that I'm intellectually understanding what's going on, because I had the experience, it's like, okay, all right. Now I could see why. I don't know if my dad intellectually understood. He just knew it worked.
He knew the feeling.
Oh, yeah, he knew the feeling. But
yeah, exactly.
So,
he knew you to get you into that flow. He may not articulate it the way we're discussing it.
No.
But that's what's so cool about this. We all know that feeling, you know, and we understand that's our true self.
But now you're teaching people how to get there directly rather than accidentally. Most people get there accidentally every day.
Yeah.
It might be a second. That's why they have shitty days, because if every day was truly really bad, they wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
It's that one moment of brilliance that ruins the rest of the day because you don't think you can get there. And that's the sad point. Like, yeah, you can get there. Now when I get out of there, it's an alarm system, and I laugh, okay, get back there. Rather than the other way around. For years, it was that way where I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah,
you had
sucks.
this beautiful moment, and I'm like, oh, there it goes.
Yeah, we don't, when it becomes our baseline, when stress becomes our baseline, we don't even realize
No.
that. And so we want to flip that. We want that calm, centered, connected place to be our baseline. And then because stress will happen, challenges will happen, but now we have this really strong base that we can look at the situation from a better place, from a clearer place. We can make better choices and better option and see more options. And we can recognize now a lot more easily when am I getting pulled out of my center and how to get back to it, rather than being way off here in the total reaction zone is our baseline, and we haven't had enough experience of knowing how to come back to our center.
Yeah, we're never taught that.
Right.
Yeah, that's just not a normal point of, discussion.
Yeah.
One thing I want to bring up to the audience and get your take on, Tanya, is, so I always like to look at, okay, what's our government, what's our military, what are different people talking about, et cetera. And so you take a concept like breath work and you go and you look at some of the most well-trained, like Navy SEALs, these people, out there, doing the hardest work. And one of the techniques that they train profusely is box breathing. And it's so funny. It's like, oh, okay, so we're literally ingraining this technique that they're calling box breathing, like as if it's military, it's not that foo-foo, woo-woo stuff. It's box breathing, and this is what we're going to train you. But that's exactly what they're teaching us, or teaching these Navy SEALs,
Right.
Which is to get into this flow that we're all talking about. So like, how would you, like, I guess, like with like a technique like box breathing, can you share your perspective on that? I mean, they're just trying to share another way for their military or our military to stay connected.
Go through a list of types of breathing and how they correlate to the body and the mind.
Well, when you say box breathing, what box breathing means is you're taking an inhale to a certain count, like a 4, and then you're holding it for the same count, 4, then you're exhaling for the same count, 4, and then you're holding for the same count, 4. So you have this even inhale, hold, exhale, hold. That's why it's a box. And that is slowing our breathing down and just giving the mind different ways of sort of staying busy while we're doing it and keeping the rhythm. With the breath work that I do, we use a lot of music that has rhythm to it that helps us find our rhythm for our breath work. But so with box breathing, that's something that's easy to do where you can just count in 2, 3, 4, out, or hold 2, 3, 4. So it's an easy way to find a rhythm. So there are, basically you can think of sort of 3 different categories, real generalized. You have calming, which means your exhale is going to be longer than your inhale. Because when we exhale, remember we're stimulating our parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and restore. So calming breath work will have a longer exhale than the inhale. Then you have balanced breathing, which is where your inhale and exhale are going to be the same. Even if it is a box breathing with a hold in it somewhere, they're going to be the same. And then you have your stimulating, where your inhale is longer than your exhale. And that's because we're stimulating our sympathetic nervous system. And stimulating our sympathetic nervous system isn't always bad. Now, I don't practice Wim Hof. I don't follow Wim Hof. But the little bit that I've read, what he is doing is stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, because that's also where our immune system gets stimulated. So that's a lot of the work that he is doing, is getting the body into that stimulated, boosting your immune system, and then calming it. And then stimulating it, and then calming it. Because also, as we toggle back and forth between parasympathetic and sympathetic, we are toning and strengthening, so to speak, our autonomic nervous system. We're teaching it how to go into stress and come out, how to go in and come out, and not stay stuck in the loop of stress.
And that's something we are not taught growing up.
No.
I mean, we could clearly implement this at very early ages and help people, really know what's going on with this instrument that we call a body.
Right.
Oddly enough, we were indirectly taught that. Like, you had gym class, so you're running, and then you're sitting down reading, but we weren't intellectually shown that's what we were doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you had to run on the thing, so you're picking up your breathing, because sports were always involved in it. They knew the byproduct of doing both was good, but they didn't know why, so it wasn't equal. I think if giving a little intellectual understanding, it could put a little more energy towards it. But we were taught this, but not directly.
Mm-hmm.
It was indirectly. Yeah.
I do a little bit of breath work at the end of all of my Pilates classes.
Yeah.
Smart.
And so one of my clients is a 4th grade school teacher.
Okay.
And she said, I'm going to start bringing breath work into my classroom.
Kids would love that.
Yes.
Absolutely, they would.
And I said, during your transition times, that's when it would be so great. They're just coming in and getting settled.
From recess or whatever?
Yeah, or
Lunch.
even like first thing in the morning. They're coming in, they've had drop off, they're chatting with their friends. It's time to come in and focus. Do 5 minutes of breath work. Then they go to recess. Energy's all out here.
Yeah.
It needs to be. There needs to be that in-breath, out-breath. Come back in, transition time, do some breath work.
Yeah.
Center, connect. Yeah,
To be a lot less yelling by the teacher.
Right.
Sit down, Johnny.
Yes.
They would love that.
Yeah.
I have been a substitute teacher for many years early
cool.
on. And the hardest part about teaching is just classroom management right now.
Yeah.
So if you have such a simple tool that can be used to just help your students, help your class, just come and make that transition, come and be centered, come and be connected now once again to my body, my breath, this space, what's next. It's such, and again,
It works.
free and
Yeah.
available all the time.
I don't know if I told you a story, but a couple of weeks ago, I had a client came in. She has type 1 diabetes. She's probably late 40s, early 50s. And she's an engineer type. So every time she comes in, she has that little attachment onto her arm.
Oh, yeah.
And she has the app up, watching her numbers. But she's an engineer type. Well, she came in, and she's always my last client on Saturdays. And she's sitting down, and her numbers were dropping like into the 60s. And
Where were they before? Just for
well,
reference.
when you're type 1, you want to be roughly like 80 to 110. Like normal people, you still want to be above that, right?
Okay.
So I asked her, like, where are you supposed to be, around here? And I'm like, are you feeling okay?
Your blood sugar is dropping.
She says, no. So I said, hey, do me a favor. And I did one round of breath work with her and had her close her eyes. And it went from 65 up to 79. And now we're having a conversation just about other things. And when we ended, it was at 84.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in the good range too, right?
Yeah, for her, it's good range. So I said, well, do yourself a favor and do some breath work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we did one round. One round in the rounds we did equated to 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it. I'm like, come on. And I'm like, you actually just saw the benefit right in front of us. We actually had something monitoring. It wasn't like, I feel good because we were distracted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you have a monitor that's monitoring your blood sugar in your body. We watch that change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that is evidence right there.
Yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden she was like, what breath work should I do? I'm like, try this.
Yeah, give it a few people.
I was giving her.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And that stuff's all over the place, and you can monitor and see.
Most people
the health
don't
benefits of this.
Yeah, the monitor's how we feel, but in her case, she actually had a machine that we watch the numbers change. Like, you go to Joe Dispenza, you'll put like something on you, and you can see a change. But we feel good, and like, that's the real true monitor. But when you can actually feel good and see a change, it links something into the aspect of not having to believe it anymore. You know it. Because there is a difference of belief and knowing. Mm-hmm. Belief is like, yeah, I believe I'll be there. And knowing is like, I'll be there.
Too bad pharmaceutical companies can't put a meter on us. Otherwise, they would be recommending breath work and charging us, Because at the end of the day...
They would find a way to charge us for our own breathing.
Exactly. Here's your oxygen.
That
We're
might
going
be
to give you
coming.
some extra. But, like, that's the only reason, this isn't, more in media, in more focus for schools, things like that. This is free. This is something you can do right now, and you can actually see direct health benefits.
But it's
from
starting
this.
to change. You just said you have a fourth grade teacher going to be doing this, and guess what? Some other teacher's going to stick her head in there. I was like, how'd you get the kids to be quiet?
God, yeah. Why are they so calm?
That's just the base understanding. I'm like, not only are they quiet, their grade point average is better.
Yeah, it's 100%. That's true too.
And then the parents come home, my kid's behaving. Like, what's going on here? It's called breathwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a gentleman pretty well known in the breathwork community named Patrick McEwen. And he talks about that when he was younger, he was a horrible student. He said, I was just distracted all the time. I didn't do well in school. I didn't have good grades. And he said, I was a mouth breather. And he said, I didn't sleep well, I didn't breathe well, and now we're understanding that if we close our mouth, breathe through our nose, that has so much to do with changing our internal physiology that it affects your ability to concentrate, it affects your ability to get a good restful sleep at night. And he said, we're now seeing that if we can help children just learn to nose breathe, that they are doing so much better in school.
Yeah.
And it's just such a simple thing.
It is crazy.
But like, you take that and bring it to any other doctor. Oh, he's clearly got ADHD.
Right.
And we
Yes.
need to write him a prescription for it right now. That's what's happening in our school.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear this other perspective, because I've also, and just recently, actually, it's funny you bring that up, but I heard that the fluorescent bulbs that are in our classroom, simply by changing the different bulb that is being used, they're realizing how much the light affects. So knowing that our bodies are light, know, and there is no actual matter here when you go down to the science of it. Like the light, the vibration, the breath, of course, all of this is affecting us physically, as we would describe it.
Yeah.
But, to hear the mouth breathing and then, like the types of bulbs and the light that's being emitted, of course, this is all playing a role on if we can focus, if we can't, how we're feeling, is it pumping the way it should be? And I think this is all going to come into play, in the future that we're all projecting, creating, manifesting together, because we're tired of the same old, the kid's got ADHD, give him a medication.
Yeah.
Because we know that doesn't work. We've seen enough of that over the last 20 years now.
That's why in the past, when a kid had ADHD, they would make him go outside and run. So now actually they're starting to breathe, because then you're forced to breathe in your nose.
There you go.
So it would actually calm them down. But the teacher's like, hey, I can't have the kid running all the time. But if you had him doing breath work in the back, we don't need to run, because the brain doesn't know if you're running or breathing. Like it doesn't know if you're sitting or running when you're breathing. Actually, because I actually heard, somebody told me that they actually have this product where it's tape. You tape your mouth shut at night.
Yeah.
So it helps,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I should get that for Karen.
Does Karen mouth breathe, or does she snore or something?
No, so she won't talk as much. No, I was kidding.
Your wife's going to kill you.
She put duct tape over her mouth. I probably talk about.
And it's not duct tape.
Yeah, right.
And so they have a couple different, it's like, that sort of surgical tape where it's not real sticky.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you just put a little
Like gymnasts use it.
strip right here, so that, of course, if you need to cough or something, it's very easy that it will just pop off.
So duct tape is not.
Yeah.
No. And they also have one that Patrick McEwen, because he works a lot with children and asthma, that he developed called myotape, which is sort of a stretchy tape. And they put it just around the mouth this way, and it just compresses enough just to help support you keeping your own mouth closed. But if you need to cough, because of course everyone's like, what if my child throws up and they're gonna, so they
swallow it and die or whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, the
Choke on
mouth
it.
can open very easily. If you want to get up and get a drink of water in the night, you don't have to remove the tape. So, yeah. But, and it is becoming a lot more common, mouth taping, because people are realizing that they are, even though maybe they are trying to consciously breathe through their nose more during the day, at night, a lot of times, especially if you're laying on your back and the mouth drops open, you're mouth breathing. And they have done a lot of research by looking at skeletons from hundreds of years ago and finding out that, and actually dentists are now starting to research and talk about this as well, that when you nose breathe, it keeps all of the soft tissue toned in the nose, in the sinuses, in the upper palate. And you're breathing, of course, if you're nose breathing, you're breathing with your mouth closed, so your jaw is stable. But when you mouth breathe, all of this tissue starts to lose its tone, and the shape of the face actually really changes. Everything starts to drop and sag, and the jaw drops open, and the palate drops, and the soft tissues inside the nose start to collapse into the nose. And because you don't use it, you lose it. You lose the tone. But it's very easily reversed. They've done experiments, sadly, with monkeys where they have plugged their noses and made them be mouth breathers for like 6 months, looked at what the physiological changes are. Their facial structure completely changed. Their vital signs change, their well-being, their health declines, and then I don't quite know how they do it, but they tape their mouths closed. Hopefully they release it when they need to eat and then tape it again, and the structure comes back. So fortunately, we are very resilient. We, can recover even from years of bad health and degeneration. Our body can recover. So if we can start to teach ourselves to keep our mouth closed and breathe in and out through the nose. Now, the breath work that we did together as a group right before we started, we did exhale through the mouth, and that had very specific reasons for doing it. But we do want to inhale and exhale through the nose even during exercise, because exhaling through the mouth, we lose about 42% more humidity out of the body. So it's very dehydrating to exhale through the mouth. So
yeah, because in boxing, you can't breathe out your mouth. For one, if you do,
mouth guard.
Well, the mouth guard makes you bite down. If your jaw is open, it breaks. It'll snap like that.
Oh, your jaw.
Yeah, so the reason you have a mouthpiece in is it consciously keeps your mouth closed. If it doesn't, it feels like something's loose in your mouth. So that's the only purpose for a mouthpiece. So you have to breathe in and out your nose. Now, if you get punched in the nose,
Yeah, good luck.
that's why you have to keep your head down. You guard. But it really does. It's more invigorating,
I'm glad you started touching on this, Tanya, because this is something I wanted to ask just for my knowledge and go into today, is the importance and value behind breathing through the nose. Because it's funny you brought up Matthias De Stefano. We love him. His work is great. But that is one thing he stresses. Like, he's like, no, you need to breathe in through the nose. And I thought that was kind of weird, because most things aren't kind of black and white, and most things aren't. But to hear him say, like, no, it's very important you breathe through the nose, I was like, there's something here.
Right.
So what is that?
Yeah.
And like, in your opinion, and why is that so important?
Well, the nose was made specifically for breathing.
Okay.
So the inside of the nose is shaped, one, to slow our breathing down, because our outside air has to go through a lot of steps before it's ready for our lungs. So it has to be warmed, it has to be humidified, it has to be purified, and cleaned before we want to take it into our lungs. So the nose is shaped and designed specifically to do that. We have mucus in our nose. The inside folds of our nostrils and our sinuses and our palate are designed to make the air weave through sort of tunnels that slow it down and that humidify it. We have all of the little hairs in our nose and stuff that catch particles, but then we also have chemicals in our nose, nitric oxide being one of them, that also is a antimicrobial, antifungal, antiviral that is working to clean the air before it goes in. So if we breathe through our mouth, which is just a great big open hole, we don't get any of that. It doesn't slow the breath down. We take in too much. I don't know if you've ever experienced like taking a big gas bin, and sometimes it like actually doesn't feel good in the lungs. It hasn't been warmed. It hasn't been humidified.
Especially in cold weather, you notice that.
Yeah.
It hasn't been cleaned. So the nose is specifically for breathing.
So you would highly stress that to people listening. Okay.
Absolutely. And even during exercise.
Yeah.
So if you are getting to a point in your exercise where you are starting to mouth breathe, you actually want to back off and stay at a place of exercise and exertion where you can continue breathing through your nose. And it's going to feel to you in the beginning, if you're used to mouth breathing at high exertion levels, that your performance goes down. And it may for a short period, but then you're going to notice your performance actually improves if you nose breathe. And there was a clip one time that one of the breath workers that I follow, and I can't remember who it was, put up on Instagram of Matt Damon being the Bourne character.
Yeah.
Just sprinting, hauling ass as fast as he can down a beach, nose breathing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, he had a good trainer.
Yeah, he
Whoever was working with him had a good trainer. And he was just, full out, hard as you can, running, nose breathing.
Yeah, it's me and my buddy. We do that with weight training. Mm-hmm. So we'll do these workouts where it's like, okay, keep your mouth closed and you breathe in. So, but we try to push ourselves beyond where we want to open the mouth, and that's when we stop.
Yeah.
We go right up to that point, because if you open your mouth, you lose the game. It's how we look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and then afterwards, in between, when I'm doing a set, he's breathing in and out his nose as deep as he can, and out of nose, no mouth whatsoever. Then we go into the push and lifting. Mm-hmm. And you could then push yourself to the point where you could be sprinting on the beach like Matt Damon was. Mm-hmm. So you're training the body. Then naturally you start to breathe in your nose because the body becomes so familiar with it. Mm-hmm. When you do it, it's like, oh, that's weird. Why am I breathing in my mouth? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tanya, let me ask you this. So me, like I was telling you, I do breath work each morning, each afternoon. It's kind of like a good reset for me. Come like 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock after I eat lunch or something like that, it kind of gets me through the rest of the day. So with the power of the breath and what we're kind of going over, so the breathing, I like to do like pretty deep breaths. I like to do like the deep breathing, the ins, outs. It's pretty noisy. You can hear yourself breathing, etc. It's kind of like, I don't want to say a forceful breathing, but it kind of is like it's a deep breathing. I do that regularly. And then when I was doing your sessions, like the one we had last Thursday, or the first time I went with you, or just like this morning when we were doing it with Frank, it was a slow breath, but I was able to obtain the same type of visuals on my breath hold that I never thought I could have when I do, like I do the deep breathing because I like that tingle feeling. I like that visual, like that drop out. You feel like the melting feeling. I love that. I never thought I was going to be able to achieve that through like a slow, conscious breath until I met you. Yeah. Is what I'm saying. So can you kind of talk about that? Like, what's the difference between these types of breathing? And you can actually access that same state that, doing it either way. Mm-hmm. So it's not really the I guess like the push of the breathing that matters, or is it? And can you just talk about that? Yeah.
So with SOMA Breath, which is one of the certifications that I have and the type of breath work that I work with the most, we really talk about the breath being light, soft, easy, slow. We want to take the breath down into the bottom of the lungs. Okay. So the bottom of the lungs is where more of the nerve receptors for the parasympathetic nervous system are, that restore, rest, recuperate. Sympathetic is up high in the chest. Also, where the gas exchange happens of bringing oxygen into the body and then getting into our blood happens in the lower lobes of our lungs. So we want to be bringing the air down deep into the lungs, and we want to give it time to come in and move through the lungs and be gentle with the body. So with forceful breathing, a lot of times people will experience things like headaches. It can aggravate tinnitus if they have it. There's just too much force and pressure sort of happening in the head and in the upper body for it, that it can have those side effects of it. So we can manipulate the breath in being soft and slow. We can speed it up. And when we get to the faster, like in, out, in, out, in, out, it then changes to where the focus is on the exhale and not the inhale anymore. The body will inhale on its own, and then we are percussively exhaling it using our diaphragm and our abdominal muscles to push the air out. But we only want to do that for short periods of time, because we don't want that pressure to be too intense. So we can, at some point, we'll do a breath work together where we get up to more kind of breathing, but that's all exhale, exhale, exhale. It's not, the inhale just happens normally. You don't
kind of like the breath of fire technique.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You don't even have to think about the inhale. It just happens. You just...
or else you'll pass
it's natural. It's literally kind of, your body does it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what people oftentimes will do is try to force both the in, out, in, out, in, out, which one is just very, very hard to do. But it's too forceful that way.
But I think that we're humans right now, at least with the understanding of it, that's the forcefulness of life is the problematic of life. Like we're trying to force everything. So even if you're forcing your breathing, even though you think it's good, it's not. Anything forced doesn't. If you force yourself to meditate, it doesn't work.
Right.
Just allow yourself to meditate. And because have done stuff to the point where we forced it, and where we lose the idea of it, like at some point you force yourself, your body's gonna just give out. And in the instant it gives out, it's a natural relaxed state. It might not last long. You think it was because you were forcing it. It's almost like saying, I hit my head on the wall 6 times, and upon the 6th time I passed out. When I woke up, I felt great. It must have been hitting my head on the wall. I'm like, no, it was the passing out and you stopping. It's why you felt better. But we think it's the doing all the time rather than the inner understanding. And the inner understanding is, you want to get to a point when you're doing any exercise or anything physical where it's very calm. Slow it down. So, it might start out breathing heavy, but how can I slow that down? Because if I'm breathing heavy all the time, I'm not going to make it through the day.
I just noticed, like, when I, especially last Thursday, like, because I love breathwork. I really do. It's a way to like really instantly get into that nice centered zone. But I was so surprised at like the visuals, the quality of the breath hold, etc., with the gentle breathing. And I remember like consciously saying to myself, like, I'm accessing that same state, if not greater. And I am not, I'm not forcing it. Like I felt like that was kind of a wake up call for me. And like this last weekend, I did less forceful and more deep breaths just from our session from last Thursday. I was like, there's something here, and so I really appreciate you showing me that. But again, it's more like we just have this outside doing mentality, like, oh, it needs to be, you have to go big or you have to go home, type of thing. When in reality, it's like, no. This body, this instrument that we call a body, knows exactly what it's doing. Use it appropriately, and you'll get, you'll achieve these different levels, that we're talking about. So I guess what I'm saying is, I didn't need this deep, intense breathing or this Wim Hof, style, in, out, in order to access and achieve that same, like, wow, parasympathetic nervous system activating.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what Frank was saying, to shift from doing a forceful action in order to try and get a
calm reaction,
to get a result, to get an experience, rather than coming into your center, connecting, and allowing the experience to open for you. It's for me, I experience the breathwork as a way of really taking the breathwork practices that we do as a way of connecting inward into the silence that breathwork brings me into. That is where everything then opens, and we connect with our higher states of consciousness. We connect with our streams of creativity and intuition. We connect with who we truly are, rather than, sort of like saying, I'm going to force myself to sit down and meditate so that I can have this experience. You can't force an experience to come, but you can come and put yourself in a place where you are open and available for the experience to happen.
The place you're searching for is the place you're searching from. St. Francis Assisi.
And it's kind of like the old mentality of grab the bull by the horns. I'm like, just allow the bull to run.
Yeah,
Just
right.
watch this majestic move.
But that's the thing.
You
That's
get
just the
hurt when you try to
conditioning.
grab the pole. I never understood that.
That's the conditioning. So much doing, so much out there achieving, this, that.
But it's not sustainable. And we all,
No.
humans, every human being knows it. It's not sustainable in the homeostasis of the body.
Well, no, I love seeing my mom over the weekend shot a little group text message to our family chat. And it was an article from like CNBC, or whatever. But it was a major news network. And it was like science, shows, it's not all about the doing. And the whole article was about, the Chinese philosophy of Wu Wei, or Wu Wei, however you want to pronounce it. Alan Watts talks about this a lot. But it's non-action, and that's kind of a lot of what we're talking about, a non-action to get a result. We're taught so much that we need to take action. We need to strive. We need to work hard. We need to struggle. This whole hustle culture that we've been taught our whole lives is the only reason or the only way to achieve, success. And that's incorrect.
It's because we're told that that's where our value lies.
Yeah.
And not just because I am a being, I have value just because of who I am.
Just for existing.
Yes, that my value is what can I produce, what can I make, how much can I earn,
And one of the reasons people still do that is, I was talking to you earlier about this, it's such a subtle move, but if I'm seeking something and I get it, in the act of getting it, I'm no longer seeking. So you think it was the thing you got. I'm like, no, it was no longer seeking that brought you home. So if you could start from that place, then you'll experience life amazingly. But if you're always seeking, there's moments when you get the satisfaction of getting the car, getting the house. Because once you have it, you no longer want it. It's in the act of not desiring and wanting that we come back home. So that's that. But when we're actually at home all the time, we actually see things come moving towards us. It doesn't mean you deny the car or the house. I'm not saying that. But you're no longer seeking it. You're experiencing it rather than chasing it. But once I grab the tail, I no longer want to grab the tail. But then, why am I grabbing the tail? Mm-hmm. If that's where I started.
Well, yeah, and, it's like, well, once I get the car, I don't want the car anymore. Now I want the next thing.
Exactly.
That's normal. We're always searching to expand. We're always searching to grow. But what we need to understand is that it wasn't we'll use the car as the example. It wasn't the car that gives us the satisfaction. We need to think, what does the car represent to me? Mm-hmm. Does it represent freedom? Does it represent
success?
Yeah. And then you come into a place where you are in a state of experiencing that emotion that you think you're going to get from having the car. You can sit with yourself and feel successful. Feel that you are in connection with the creative energy that is the universe. You can sit with yourself and come into a place of connection with who I truly am. What is my true power? What is my true source? And then you will know that you can do anything in life that you want to. And that's that feeling of success.
Yeah.
So now it may be fun to have the car, and you'll have the car.
Now it's an experience rather than a have.
Yes.
Or I have to get.
Yes.
Because people focus on, once I get it, check. Mm-hmm. But once you have the car and you experience it, it's a completely different understanding. I'm not an anti-materialist because humans are material. Mm-hmm. It's just we always put the carriage in front of the horse. And once in a while, the horse will push the carriage properly, but not often. Mm-hmm. But if you put the horse in front of the carriage, it always moves smooth. And then you could sit on the carriage rather than directing the horse.
Well, and the world is meant to be fun.
Yeah.
We have senses.
Yeah. We
are meant to enjoy our senses. We are meant to have fun. So if it's the car, and if it's, I want to experience, are you familiar with Abraham Hicks?
We love Abraham.
So you hear her
Esther
Esther talk about loving to drive fast.
Yeah.
So for her, the cars are fun.
Yeah.
And they are a means for her to have a joyful experience. And so when you see it that way, it's like, I enjoy my home because I enjoy creating a beautiful space, and I'm constantly creating. We're constantly working on the yard and the flowers and the this and the that and creating a space. It's an expression of me. And so it feels good. It's a vibration that I resonate in. I also recognize that for me, a home represents security and represents foundation and groundedness and a base. And so when I recognize what it is, then I understand what are my emotions around it, what are my needs around it, what's my relationship with it, and I can appreciate it so much more and enjoy it so much more, rather than just thinking, well, I need this, 15-room mansion.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why? Do you know why you want that? Do you know why you need that?
You have a lot of kids.
And now that you have it, are you able to enjoy it and appreciate it for the experience that it is? Or are you so disconnected that you don't even understand why you wanted it? And
and that's where 90% of the world's at, which is, hey, we want all this. We want this money. We want this job. We want this, whatever. But in reality, if we were to really step back and analyze, no, a lot of that we don't want. We've been taught that we want, especially when it comes to money and material objects, etc. Because again, it's the level of conditioning, out there.
It's because it's the moment you get something, in the act of never wanting it is where we're at. So Abraham Hicks teaches, get into the state of already the end. And watch the stuff show up. It shows up, but most people are in the state of seeking. And once in a while they trip upon the thing, and in the moment of getting it.
But that's how we're taught. We're taught until I have this, I'm not allowed to enjoy myself. Yeah. In fact, that's where everybody's at, which is, hey, I want to feel good. I just can't because I haven't gotten what I said I need, and then I'll allow myself to feel good. And even they take it a step further, and I remember doing this to myself. I don't deserve to feel good. Until I get that, until I have that job, until I have that relationship, until I have that weight, until I have that whatever, amount of money, salary, I'm not allowed to feel good until I've achieved that, and that's the weird part about this world is we're kind of taught that, until I have certain things, I'm not deserving, or I'm not a good participating member in society, or I'm not successful, or I'm not attractive, or whatever. And that's where everyone is stuck.
Yeah.
And why we're all,
Yeah, it's starting to turn though.
No, absolutely. It's just the hard part is understanding and learning that we create the feeling, and then we allow those experiences to come in, and we're actually blocking all of that as we're staying upset, as we're staying in struggle, and as we're not allowing ourselves to feel good. We're just attracting more and more of not feeling good, more not worthy situations, more undeserving experiences, and that's the hang up. And so it's cool to hear you circle back to that.
As Abraham Hicks always talks about, the two ends of the stick. I don't have enough money. I want money because I don't have enough money. So when I'm trying to think that I'm connecting with I'm abundant, when really what we're experiencing is lack, then we're never going to come into vibrational frequency and harmony and coherence with abundance, because our true state of vibration is lack.
Now, so obviously what you do as far as breath work, it helps obviously immediately, not just psychologically, but also physically. And I tell this to people, no matter where you are, you're at a state of health. Not I'm not healthy yet. I'm you have to be healthy to become healthier, if that, or to get more of health. So it is a facet of state. I remember Abraham talking about this when it came to money. If you have $5 and don't feel abundant, that $5 will disappear. But if you can literally master the understanding of $5 will then turn into 10, because it's the law of
attraction.
Because it's the law of attraction, yes, but it's actually, when you look at the world or nature, it's actually law of what's the word I'm looking for? But compound interest.
Oh, okay.
So if I have one apple seed and I happen to plant it, I grow a tree and I grow 20 apples. Now each apple has 10 seeds. It's compounded. It never remains the same. But if I only had one seed, I'm lacking.
Yeah.
but I have a whole orchard in my hand, and I plant it. Or I could squander the apple seed and not plant it and actually go in the opposite direction, as we say. So it's about understanding the physics behind thought, or the understanding of it. And when you move in the direction, you have to proclaim at the moment in which you're in, I am healthy. And then you'll act as if so. But stop trying to compare yourself to like if somebody's coming in, they ought not to compare themselves to you. Because you can't compare yourself to anybody anyway. But that's what people do. They look at what health is. Like, I'm nowhere near that. I'm like, stop looking at that. That's not health. That's another individual on their own journey.
Right.
And when you can convince someone you already are healthy, and you do this, they get more of it. Not healthier, but more of it, because it's just a different degree of health. Yeah. And that's what we're looking at, different degrees of the same thing.
And that's the power of breath work. It allows you to get to a place to create some sort of space to get there. Like, again, we're running in high beta all day long. We're running, thought after thought. And like you explained, the more we're breathing, the more thoughts we're having. So we're caught in this constant stream of thought. I remember when I started like learning about these concepts, 4 or 5 years ago with you, Frank, one of the biggest things that was hard for me was I thought I was not supposed to stop thinking. We're kind of taught that if you're not thinking, oh, like, what are you, an airhead? You're not thinking. But we're not supposed to be thinking. We're supposed to be experiencing. And, we use the thought, we use the imagination to create and generate more experience. And so it was very hard for me to, like, let go of, like, constant stream of thought. And I thought that was, like, a bad thing. Like, I was, like, it's like watching a part of you fall away. You're afraid to do it. You're, like, afraid to let go of constant thinking because you're narrating everything in your day. Okay, this is what's next. This is what I got to do. Okay, I haven't done this. And that's always going. And it's learning that that's not normal. In fact, that's the opposite of normal. And normal is a rested state. It is, no constant stream of thoughts. And breath work allows you to get into that space and experience it and go, wow, this is great. And then you're like, oh, I get it. It doesn't have to be a constant stream of thought. And so that's what I really love about breath work and how it kind of ties in. Did you notice that on your journey as far as the slowing down of the thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, the brain has a function. The brain is meant to organize our lives. It's, we need to know where our keys are, and we need to remember how to be able to drive a car. So our brain definitely has a function, and it's constantly that program that's running in the background all the time. We just need to not think that we have to be so involved in it. We don't need to engage with every thought that the brain is having all the time. And so, I think actually even before breath work, one of the things that kind of helped me shift was, I don't even quite know how to say it, but just because it's my opinion, so what? I don't have to become too involved in it. I don't have to share it. I don't have to become too attached to it. It's just an opinion that I have in this moment, and it could be changing at any time. So I actually don't need to quite get so attached to my thoughts anymore. And that was the first time that I felt like I started stepping back away from being so engaged in my thoughts,
attached,
and feeling like I had to have opinions about things. And that I remember back in college, meeting a guy that I was instantly very interested in, and thought, I need to seem dynamic and interesting, and I need to seem...
We all go through this, I know.
And so we were in a long, actually, car drive together, and we started having this conversation that was kind of out of the ordinary for me, and I was being a lot more engaged and a lot more passionate about, because I thought that that's what interesting people were like. And I remember him telling me later on, I did not like you. I thought that you were just this very strong, opinionated, one-sided person. And I was like, wow.
But what was really going on there was you're being your true self.
Right.
And that's what he was picking up on. Nothing about whatever the details were. It's just we were faking it. And that's it. And that's where a lot of us, we think we're supposed to do stuff like that. Like, oh, I'm at work, I got to be this role, or I'm this. And we totally just blow by what what's natural, what's normal, how would I act if I was just me, you know, I am so special on my own, you know, and I have so many great things, but we twist ourselves into these pretzels thinking like, no, this is how this person is going to like me. They need to see me in this way.
Right.
And I need to be in this type of clothing, and I need to have this type of background. We do that all over. And it's that constant judgment.
Yeah, because we think the act of knowing is what's going to get us somewhere.
Well, we feel like we've seen it all, or we've analyzed it because we've seen a bunch of movies that have programmed us a certain way.
That's why one of the smartest human beings ever lived, we consider, was Socrates. And I know nothing.
Yeah.
And it was when you look at the words, it's knowing no thing, because you can't know a thing, because a thing is always fleeting,
changing.
You can't know it. But the one thing you can know is the observer of the thing. That's what he meant. I know is the observer. No thing. I can't know a thing. Clouds are always changing. You can't know it. You can know the sky, though. And that's what we understand. Even Niels Bohr said that with science years ago. He's like, science advances one death or one funeral at a time.
Yeah.
It's true.
We need old ideas that die off.
Yeah. And it's not that they're wrong, they're incomplete. So the game of science is brilliant, but it's incomplete and always will be. But that's the brilliance of it.
And I love that you said that, because that's what quantum physics showed us. It's not that Newtonian physics is wrong. No, that's just one set in this experience, in this world. Yeah.
And even quantum physics is
totally. But quantum has shown us, like, there isn't just one way. Like, sure, that is a way that works.
Yeah.
Yes, 2 + 2 is 4. You know, that works in this realm. But there's also other mathematics that works. There's also other whatever, you know, and that's the thing. And we live in a world now that says, no, Newtonian's the only way. That's the only thing that exists. And that's where we get caught up, is we keep thinking that it's not that we keep thinking, we are putting ourselves in this own box. And as soon as we let the thinking get outside of that normal, linear, you know, very cut and dry way of thinking, we're like, oh, wow, miracles do happen. Miracles happen every day all around us that we can't explain. The news just doesn't cover them, you know?
No.
I love the analogy of the blind man and the elephant.
Oh, that's my favorite, the 5.
Yeah, where, you know, you may be holding on to the tail and you may have this experience and think this is the truth of what an elephant is. It's long, it's skinny, it has bristly hair.
Yeah.
And then you may be on the side and you think, oh, no, it's this massive, rough, you know, thick. They're all true. Yeah. They just aren't the whole picture.
One of my favorites. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And you're so right.
Yeah, because at the moment, like, your opinion matters to you in the moment, but empirically it shifts. So holding on to it actually is what creates that box around you and everybody else around you. So that's why people now are learning to discuss things not in an adversary way, in an expansive way. Because if all 5 of them got together, they can actually draw the elephant out by each, if they accepted each one's vision point. Someone would have drew it like a sketch artist, like, oh yeah, that's what an elephant looks like. But you needed all inputs for all 5 people to do that.
And I can't remember if Matthias de Stefano said this or if I just had the understanding after listening to one of his talks once. But for me, it was coming to the understanding of the difference between a belief and being in resonance with something is when you believe something, you become very rigid about it and you feel like you know it, and so you don't explore it anymore. But when you're in resonance with something, you understand that I am feeling a truth in this moment with this aspect of this thing, but all of those components shift and change. Wow. You know, I will become a different person. I'll have a different relationship with this fact or this element, and it will shift and change. And so being in resonance with something means at this moment I'm feeling this truth here with the understanding that all will shift and change and grow. And I allow myself then the space to also shift and grow and have new perspectives and come into another new relationship with this thing, where a belief keeps us sort of locked in and rigid.
Yeah, well, you said, because a belief is not having the experience but taking the word of something. So religions teaches beliefs. But there are other aspects of religion that could show is to get into the rhythm and have the experience. And even that is a momentary thing, so you don't hold on to that. That's the truth. But a belief is taking somebody else's word for something without your experience. Because a belief is like, I don't know. But I believe that. I want to believe that. I hope it happens. But you have to let go of a belief to have the experience. A cab drive is a belief to the restaurant, but in order to get out and eat, you have to get out of the cab. You have to leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but at the same time, I mean, a horrible example just popped into my head, but a woman can experience being beaten by a man and think men beat women, men are bad, because she had that experience. Mm-hmm. And then hold on to that in a rigid way and not allow her perception to change. So it has to be an understanding that my awareness and my understanding of this is limited right now to my experience.
Yeah.
And I still need to allow room to say that there is a possibility of another experience that I may have.
Absolutely.
That will
and that's why having the belief that all men are violent. Mm-hmm. The fact is that particular man that beat her up is violent. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. That's not a belief. So if a woman's beaten by a man, that's a fact. We're not here to dispute that. But the guy over there isn't. But then I want to believe that to protect myself. So mm-hmm. It protects yourself from going out. And I get that. But in the end, it can be harmful to have that. But it's good to keep yourself there at some moment, but then you want to let go of it. But the man who beat the woman, that's a fact. That's not a belief. It's an experience.
Right. And so that's what I was saying, that beliefs can also come from an experience, not just from somebody else telling you. It can also, you can have this experience, but you can get so locked in.
That happens with trauma all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And it just keeps you in that loop.
Yep.
And you don't know how to step out of that loop to be open to allowing a new experience to come in and to change that.
New perspective, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, like doing something like breathwork, what I like about breathwork, whenever I do something different, I get the immediate, I don't say gratification, but the immediate result right away. Where there's other systems where you don't. Like there's certain things you do, that it can take time. And why they take time is because you have to lose yourself from them. It really isn't what you're doing. And people sell those. But the breath work, whenever you do the breath work, in the moment, you actually experience it. Mm-hmm. You experience the result, or whatever the result. You're experiencing something beyond the realm of not doing it. And that's where people get pulled in. Because you tell someone they have to go run a mile in order to feel that run is high. I got to run a mile to get there? Mm-hmm. Like, no, just do breath work. Because the run is high, that's where it comes from. Mm-hmm. Because they get beyond the point where they're running and they're breathing at the same rate as the oxygen that they're burning. That's all the run is high is. They're at the same rate of what they're pulling in is coming out. Kind of like Matt Damon running on the... But if you're actually in the beginning of a run, you're pulling more oxygen in and you're burning more quickly, so you're not in that comfortable place. Mm-hmm. But once you get to the same rhythm and rate, you're in that flow, that's what they call the run is high. Uh-huh. But you can get there on the couch. Mm-hmm. Just breathe in, breathe out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the brilliance of it.
I do love that.
Yeah, otherwise you might hurt your knees otherwise. But hey, if you love to run, it's a different, I'm not taking away running, but there are people that can't run. They think like, I'm like, no, you can't. They can't work out there in certain situations. Stephen Hawkins, the man should have died in his 20s. He died, 79 years old. Mm-hmm. He didn't have no physical attribute, mm-hmm. but he was breathing. Mm-hmm. So it kept him alive. Mm-hmm. So it kept his brain expanding the universe into the, all
exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
As far as techniques go for you, Tanya, in your opinion, what are some quick ways? Like, how did you get yourself from 15 roughly down to 10? Because for me, that's a goal of mine, mm-hmm. is getting into that calm breathing state on a daily basis, because you will change your physical reality in that, by doing this. Yeah. And that's what I want to share with those listening. Like, you actually will change how you're experiencing the world around you. Mm-hmm. There's not this absolute one world out there that, we've been taught and, to view it. There is 8 billion different people experiencing 8 different billion worlds, or infinite set of realities, however you want to describe it. So what is a way that you got from 15 to 10, mm-hmm. and from 10 now, I'm sure you're working your way to 6.
I'm working my way, yes. Yeah, so it's about, like we said, it's about training your body to be more comfortable with higher levels of CO2. So any type of a breath reduction practice will help with that. So one thing that I do is in the shower, I've set that as a trigger for me. I hum in the shower.
Oh, okay.
Humming vibrates your paranasal sinuses where we produce most of our nitric oxide. And so humming helps us produce exponentially more nitric oxide. And then the humming also helps us control and have a longer exhale. Humming also stimulates our vagus nerve, which helps to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So I hum in the shower, and I just do that continuously in the shower. It's kind of nice because I found by accident one time, I was in a certain position. I was like, ooh, the resonance here in the shower. I can actually feel the vibration coming back at me. It was so amazing. So humming in the shower is one of my reduced breathing exercises that I do. I just hum for as long as I can, and then be sure to capture that nitric oxide by breathing in through your nose, because a lot of times we'll hum, and when we do a long exhale, we inhale through the mouth. So you have to make sure that you keep the mouth closed and inhale again through the nose. And then I'm fortunate in that I see several clients a day, and I incorporate breath work into a lot of our sessions. And one of them that I do is just some short periods of anaerobic workout, which means we're going to inhale, exhale, hold our breath out, and walk in place for as long as we can. And then once we need to take a breath, we take 2 to 3 recovery breaths in and out through the nose, and we do it again, and we do about 5 rounds. So I fortunately get to do that several times a day because I do it with all of my clients.
I've done that with farmers carries.
Yes.
Smart.
Where you just grab weight and you walk and you hold your breath. And then, then you just have to breathe in that, You try to see how far you can walk without passing out.
What's something we can do while driving?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Well,
when
be
people are
careful when
listening.
you're driving.
Yeah.
Because
Well, but there's got to be some sort of... you could hum while you're driving.
Yeah, you can hum. You just don't want to do anything that's going to cause you to have to pay a lot of attention to what you're doing.
I know what you mean, because I'll do breathing before I arrive to a client. So I work in real estate. I don't know if I told you that, but when I'm out with clients and whatnot, especially if it's I'm coming from or got a stressful call and I want to get in that zone before I meet them, I'll do some breath work on my drive. But it's funny, I will have to limit my breath hold and things I do because of that lightheaded feeling. And I'm driving a vehicle and I'm operating. I'm I want to be safe, for those on the road, etc. But I'm always looking for techniques that you can do while driving. I don't know, for our listeners, I know they're listening, and driving often or whatever. So I'm always trying to think of a way where, because we get into this trance state when we drive and we don't even realize it. And so I feel like that's a good way to program, yourself, if you will.
You count your breath, if you're driving and look at the clock and see, okay, I'm going to count my breaths in and out my nose.
I like that.
So you're still focused, you're hyper focused, and you won't get into an accident. But you're actually now you're not thinking about yesterday. You're actually thinking about now, and you're looking at the clock, and then you're like, okay, I did 7 breaths.
Yeah.
That's one. It's safe too. It's not dangerous.
Yeah.
I will actually listen to one of my own breathwork recordings.
Oh, nice.
That have the slower one, and I just let it be in the background.
Yeah,
it's not something that I'm trying to do the breathwork, but I can hear the rhythm of the music, and just sort of subconsciously, it just sort of helps me set my own breathing.
Smart.
Do not do a breathwork practice while you're driving. Do not put in a recording and try to do the actual breathwork. But
there's something calming. We were out there before we did this. We were doing the breathwork, and there, even if you weren't doing the work, it already put you in a calm state before we took our first breath.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that is the music, your voice, everything has great tonality. So you don't have to actually do the breath work. You can still listen to it while you're driving.
Yeah. So if you have even just some very calm, if I'm not listening to that, I listen to Pandora. I like Pandora, and I put on their spa station.
Nice, yeah. My brother does that too. He loves spa music.
Calming music to be listening to in the car. It doesn't have a beat. It doesn't have a driving thing. It's just this very calm, peaceful birds, water, kind of stuff like that. So I actually have a commute that I have to do 3 times a week that for me is very stressful. I do not like freeway driving here around Phoenix. And so the commute is actually very stressful for me. And so I actually just put on spa music to help me just sort of stay calm and just keep myself there.
Again, another reason why we love our cars, we can, within the car, we can control the environment. Unless you have somebody next to you. It's like to drive alone. It's like,
right.
Will you please be quiet? No. Hence the tape.
Hence the tape.
I get in a lot of trouble by my wife.
Got a lot of trouble with my wife.
Yeah.
I love that.
She likes my sense of humor, I guess.
So Frank and I had the privilege of doing a session with you prior to us jumping on live with this. Can you tell us a little bit about a recording and something we thought we could share something with our audience, do maybe a round with them, that way they can listen at home, gives them an opportunity to kind of, breathe along with us. I figured we could do something on air, and then afterwards and stuff, we can tell the audience how they can, get, more information on your tracks, what you offer, etc. Because I guess before we, kind of dive into that, you personalize each one of your different routines. Or how would you call them? What would you call them? Exercises, routines?
I call them breathwork journeys or breathwork session. Yeah. So usually I'll get an inspiration. Like the one that we did actually was an inspiration from listening to a Matthias De Stefano.
Okay. There you go. There you go. Perfect.
Love that.
And so I'll get an inspiration from something, and I'll kind of have a sense of this is what I want the journey to be about. And then SOMA Breath, who I'm certified through as one of their instructors, I have access to this library of music that they create specifically for breath work. It's proprietary to them. It's their musicians that create it. And so I have a large library that I can go to and either pull full like 4-round tracks, or I can pull individual tracks and put things together as I want to, how I want the breathwork journey to progress and move. And so I'll get a sense of what it is that I want the journey to be about, and sort of what my feeling is about it. And then I actually spend a lot of time just going and listening to different music tracks and saying, does this give me the feeling, the mood, the experience of what I'm wanting to open up with this breath work. And once I've picked my music and I have my theme, I literally just sit with the music for hours, and I just sit with it, and I just get sort of download. I just get inspiration of, sometimes it'll just be a one phrase or something, and I'll listen to 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll rewind, and I'll just sit with the music again and just listen. And that's how I create what I call my script for the breath work. And then I just work on putting it together. I work on, am I splicing music together? Am I adding ambient sounds? Am I bringing in any other elements? Like I have one that's called a breathwork journey called Honoring the Elements. I'm sorry, this is the one that was inspiration from Matthias. The ones that we just did was Christian Sundberg, who I want to introduce you guys to.
Yeah.
Honoring the Elements was Matthias, and because he's very big about that we are the earth.
Yeah.
We are extensions of the earth. So I have one called Honoring the Elements that is looking at each element, earth, water, fire, air, ether, seeing how it's expressed in the earth and seeing how it's also expressed in us. And it's really a prayer. It's really a song of love, thanking the consciousness that created it, thanking the earth that we are extensions and expressions, and that we gain our physical bodies from, that allow us as consciousness to come in and have this experience. So we go through and look at what is the earth element in our planet, what is the earth element within our body. I find music that for me gives me an earthy, grounded feel. And then we are giving our intention, our love, our gratitude, our honor, our respect to that element, and then we move into fire. And so then I bring in fire sounds, and the music changes, and it's got more of a rhythm that sort of almost makes you feel like you're dancing around a fire, and you hear the fire crackling. And then we go into water, and you're going to hear water sounds. And we talk about the different ways that water is expressed and giving our love to the water, and, talking about how when we have love or gratitude, we hold that with water, the ice crystals form these very beautiful, beautiful ice crystals. And then we move through it that way. So that's sort of my process of working with it. And then there's the whole recording aspect, where I am now going to lay down my vocal track with my music and make sure everything is lined up the way I want to. I might hear something in the music that is a sort of a dancing feel, and so I may line up a cue that I feel like that music expresses or something.
Very cool.
And put it all together, and then I, as you guys know, fine tune all of my levels and all of that. So it takes me a good 3 weeks, sometimes a month, to create a single breathwork track.
All right.
Gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah. But it's such a creative process.
But
for
obviously,
me.
when we hear it, you can tell there was love put into it. It wasn't just generated through some AI.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
Yeah. So do you want to do?
I say we do a session
do a
on air with
session?
everybody.
Now, before we do the session, like we said, explain to people the breathing we're going to do, and because hopefully, if they're not driving the cars, listen to us, they'll join along.
Yeah.
with
If
the
you are,
breathing.
pull over. Give yourself a few minutes. It
Yeah.
won't be long. We're just going to do a round.
So this is what we would call a SOMA Breath journey. And SOMA Breath, we combine an intention setting or a short meditation, which we did together before we came on air together, that sets the intention for what this breath work is going to be about. And then we have a round of rhythmical breathing, and that can be a calming, balancing, or stimulating, as we were talking about, depending on what the rhythm and the timing of the breathing is. So we have about 4 to 5 minutes of rhythmical breathing. And then with SOMA Breath, we also go into breath retentions. So the first one that we do is a breath retention on the exhale. Oh, and during our rhythmical breathing, as I kind of mentioned earlier in our session today, we inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And it's with intention that we do it that way, because exhaling through the mouth is, one, going to help us blow off more CO2, which is going to help us go into our breath retention longer. But also, if you exhale with a sigh or a moan or a tone, it's also a relaxing.
Yeah.
That's another thing I did over the weekend because of your class.
Good.
Like I was like more loud with my exhale when I was at my house this weekend, and I was shaking out the old energy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. Great. That was cool for me.
It also kind of stimulates our sexual life creation energy.
I didn't know that. That's
And
cool.
so you will feel that if you're in a group sometimes, or even by yourself, it can sound orgasmic. And so for some people, if that's triggering to them, we talk about how to, be more comfortable with that. But that actually is raising that energy from the root center up through the energy centers, up into our higher centers.
That makes sense, especially because that is that root chakra, like you're talking about, that red center.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
So then we go into a breath retention on the exhale. And what this is doing is, one, it's helping us to become more resilient to higher levels of CO2, because as we hold our breath on the exhale, our CO2 levels start to rise. They start tapping at our brainstem saying, I think you need to breathe now. And we're pushing past that just a little bit. We are in no danger in our 2.5 minutes that I tend to time mine for, no danger of running out of oxygen at all. There's going to be no damage to you whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that as that feeling starts to intensify of I want to breathe, it's actually because the CO2 levels are rising, and that stimulus to our brainstem is saying, this is where you usually breathe. This is where we like to breathe right now. But as you override that, you start reprogramming your brain. You start coming into more control. This is why SOMA breathwork and the way that we do the breathwork is really good for people with anxiety issues and panic attack issues.
Yeah.
Because it tells you, I am in control.
Yeah.
I can choose how to respond in this situation. I can choose when I want to take that breath in. I know I'm completely safe even though I'm experiencing this state of stress. I can choose to stay calm and know that I'm in control. So as we go into what we are called intermittent hypoxic levels, meaning short, brief periods of low oxygen, you can put an oximeter on your finger, that they do to look at your blood oxygen levels. And you can watch, once we start to hit about 90 seconds or more, your blood oxygen levels will start to drop, not your cellular oxygenation, but your blood oxygen levels start to drop. And when this happens, it starts to trigger all types of positive stress responses in the body, where our body starts to think, I'm not getting as much access to oxygen as I'm used to, so I need to start doing things to become more efficient at using the oxygen I have. We're going to start producing more red blood cells. We're going to start producing more mitochondria. The body's going to start using our oxygen more efficiently. And that is going to help us become a more efficient, healthy, well-being physical body. So then we have that breath hold on the exhale, and then we take a breath hold together on it, and we hold on the inhale. Now, during that breath hold time, in my Breathworks, I time it to be about 2.5 minutes. You're not going to be able to do that in the beginning if you aren't an experienced breath worker who's had practice with breath holds and stuff like that, and that is perfectly okay. Mm-hmm. You just push yourself a little bit beyond your comfort zone, and then you take what's kind of called a booster breath, just a little breath, blow it back out again. And you take as many of those as you need to until the cue comes in the music for everybody to do it together. Now, if you're doing it by yourself and you just want to go one time to your max level and then take the inhale, that's totally fine as well. So a contraindication for that would be anybody who has a heart issue. So if you have a pacemaker, if you have like a heart arrhythmia or any serious problems with your heart, you would not want to push yourself in these breath holds. You could do a very light, gentle breath hold. We all hold our breath when we're concentrating. You can do a gentle, light breath hold. You can just stay in the rhythmical breathing, or you can just relax your breath and let it be normal doing these breath holds. Also, if you're prone to strokes, we don't recommend you doing the prolonged breath holds. And if you are like in a organ failure, stage of a serious illness, we wouldn't recommend doing it. So after we've done the long breath hold on the exhale, then we breathe in together, and we're going to lift our pelvic floor muscles. This is about the sort of Joe Dispenza, teaching of squeezing and lifting and sending our life force energy up from our root center up to our pineal gland. And we're going to hold our breath on the inhale. We're reoxygenating the body. We're taking that prana and that life force energy in, and we're pumping the pelvic floor, which is pumping the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And then we release the breath. We have a few seconds of just breathing at a normal breathing rhythm, and then we go into another round of rhythmical breathing. Mm. So the three of us started a breathwork journey together. We did the sort of meditation and the first 2 rounds. Our first round was a 4-4 breathing. Our second round was a 2-2, which is a little bit more stimulating, even though it was balanced 2-2, because it was quicker and faster. It's a little bit more stimulating. And I think the round that we're on right now toggles back and forth between 4-4 and 2-2 and 4-4 and 2-2, and I guide you back and forth. One of the other things that SOMA Breath adds into breathwork is the cueing. So we are reprogramming. We are bringing ourselves into almost a hypnotic state of being centered on our breath, very relaxed, very open, very receptive. And then we're giving cues of, positive things, of coming more into alignment with your love, with your center, with your higher self. I have one called the Fire of Transformation, which talks about if there's anything that you want to let go or bring forth, if you're letting go, it's without judgment, it's without shame, it's without guilt. We're releasing, and we're bringing the new in. Or I'm embodying something that I want, a stronger voice, a deeper connection to myself. And so the cueing is all about supporting you on, and that's why I call them journeys, because we pick a theme, and that journey takes us into that place of calling in a more loving, open, expansive self, or coming into a calmer place, or experiencing a shift or something that I want to let go of. So where we're at is the third round of a 4-round journey, I think. Okay. So your audience who's listening, they're going to kind of be jumping into the middle of it, but we'll just kind of pick up from where we had left off.
Perfect.
This gives them a nice little taste, and then from there they get to revisit, and when we come back, we'll go ahead and have you kind of share where they can find more information on this, talk a little bit about your one-on-one sessions, things you do online, and we'll go all into that.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Ready? Here we go. In, 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. In. Feel the energy of life scintillating within you and all around you. 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. In. Energize your body with consciousness. Awaken in your life to the truth of who you are. Be the witness of the truth in the heart of the one next to you. This is the most loving thing you can do. As Rumi says, wherever you are, whatever you do, be love. I am kindness and compassion. I am abundant and free. I am creative and unlimited. I am light and I am love. I am powerful and eternal.
4, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, out, 2, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in.
Let your body move with the rhythm of the breath.
Out,
Awaken the energy within you.
in, out, in, out,
Feel the breath of consciousness.
in, out, 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 in,
What I seek,
out,
I am.
in,
What I am searching for,
out,
I possess within.
out, in, out, in,
I am the love that created this world,
in, out, in,
and I am the light that illuminates it.
in, out, in,
I am here to be love
in,
and to expand love.
out, in, out, in, out,
Last breath.
in, out,
And now inhale and exhale, emptying your lungs and holding your breath out. Be in the stillness between breaths. In the space between the inspiration of the in-breath and the manifestation of the out-breath. Be in the eternal. And now release your hold And inhale, bringing the eternal into the physical, bringing the light into your body, and hold. And now release your breath and be here now as your fully illumined self, the light of creation.
That was amazing.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Tanya. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
my
better
pleasure.
than any drug you can ever take.
Yeah, truly, you know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's nothing like that type of just true relaxation and the ability to control this with our breath. You know, at any given point, we can drop into this and just relax.
Yeah.
We all have this ability right at our fingertips, and we don't talk about it enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's ours naturally. It was meant to be ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is the reason we don't. A lot of people don't think it's possible, but now you're showing it is.
Mm-hmm.
So when people know it's possible, do it. If you don't think it's possible, you don't do it.
Great point, Frank.
Yeah.
And just for the audience listening, Tanya, what are like some success stories that some of your clients have shared, you know, from just going on this journey with you and where they've found themselves? Are you comfortable sharing anything like that that's been shared with you?
I mean, some of the biggest things, of course, as you can imagine, like after a breathwork group, I'll often, that we do live on the Thursdays and Sundays, I'll often get texts saying, I slept better than I've ever slept. That's usually one of the main responses that I get. But also people keep coming back and they say, I just always feel so transformed. Yeah. You know, I can walk in with the day on my shoulders and I leave just feeling like I'm floating on a cloud. Yeah. I just leave feeling reconnected to myself, which that is what it's all about. Finding tools, however they work for us, meditation, breath work, music, coming into the zone during running, whatever it is, we're always looking for what is bringing us back to connection with ourselves. So that is, I think, is the greatest outcome of it, is just feeling like I'm present. I'm here with me. I'm back. I'm with myself. But I also, I will share with you just a little bit of breath work that I do at the end of my Pilates classes. I just do 5 minutes of either a relaxation where the exhale is longer than the inhale, like a 4-8, or a coherence breathing where we're doing 5.5 seconds in and 5.5 seconds out. And I do that at the end of all of my classes. And one of my students, I also teach group classes at a studio in Tempe, as well as my private classes that I teach. And one of my students wasn't coming to class anymore, and I hadn't heard from her for a while. And another instructor reached out and let me know that she had cancer and was going through chemo and was actually having a really hard time. And I reached out to her, and she said, Tanya, I have to tell you, I use that little 5 minutes of breath work that we do at the end of class. That is what is getting me through this. And she has promised me, she says, I have some amazing stories to share with you. So I keep saying yes.
That's so powerful.
I want to hear. But she says, I've had some really challenging times on my journey. I do want to say that she's back in class. She's doing wonderfully well.
Good for her.
But she says the breath work that you share, just those 5 minutes that we do, she says has been such a support, has been this thing that has carried me through and has been so transformative for me. So
And it's about the experience, which is the empirical truth. You bring that to them. You allow them to have that in that moment. So.
You're letting them come home, and feel at home.
Yeah.
What we're all searching for, you're giving them just that taste of it.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Which is very special. Thank you for your work, because you're touching a lot of lives and you're changing a lot of people's, where we get so wrapped up into the way things should be and ought to be and how they're, what the world is and what's realistic and what's not. It's nice to kind of break all that sometimes.
I like that, coming home. That might be the inspiration for my next one.
Love that. So, Tanya, can you tell our listeners where they can find more on your what you offer, a little bit about your online presence, if you do Zoom stuff, tell them about that.
Yeah, the best place to find me would be Linktree /Tanya Paty, and that'll be down
on the screen. We'll put that on the screen.
So that's the best place to find me, because that will have my website, that will have my Facebook, my Instagram, that will have a link to this podcast, that will have my LinkedIn links. There's even a little sample, I think 1 round of a breathwork session that you can listen to.
Perfect.
So that's all on there. So just Linktree /Tanya Paty is the best place to find.
And how do you spell Paty?
Its first name is Tanya, last name P as in Paul, Aty.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect.
Yep. So that'll be there. And I do Zoom sessions. I do Zoom breathwork sessions, and I also do work with people one-on-one through Zoom if they're not local. Okay. And then we are here in Phoenix, Arizona, and so if you're local, I offer a live group breathwork session on the second Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. and on the fourth Sunday of every month at 4 p.m. And those are live in my home studio here in Phoenix.
Very cool.
So time this recording's out will be Friday, so a couple days later she'll be having it. So if you can get
exactly. So if you can make this Sunday coming up, or no, it's going to be next Sunday, because the fourth Sunday, right?
So it'll be July 23rd.
Okay, July 23rd.
Will be the one that's coming up.
Yeah, coming up. So this recording will be out on Friday.
Yep.
The 21st, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be right.
So,
So if you're local, let me know. Yeah. And my space is limited. I can fit 10, squeeze 12 into my studio space. So if you're interested in attending a live session, you can reach out to me. We'll put my phone number in it as well. You can reach out to me there, or you can DM me on one of the social
media platforms.
Yeah, media platforms, and DM me and let me know, because that way I know I don't have people showing up that I don't have space for, because I'm happy to say we've sold out many times. So that's really
good,
exciting.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Obviously.
Awesome. Well, then it sounds like we got a good way to access you. We'll have all that information on the bottom of the screen so people can reach out. So you actually do one-on-one, like kind of like a session breathing with them if they are out of the country, out of state, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And with SOMA Breath, I'm also a neurotherapist. Okay. So as I was saying, that one of the things with SOMA Breath is that we can work with our sort of subconscious beliefs and shift them and change them. So I do work one-on-one with clients if they've got, like I had a woman who she was just going through a divorce and, just wanted that support going through this transition. She really wanted to claim her strong voice and maintain her clarity through it and be able to move through the process. There were children involved, with as much grace and as much love and as much compassion. So, we worked with that. We worked at meeting her where she was at. What did she need? We talked about, what were her experiences of moving through the process, and then always, using breathwork as our foundation for helping to center and align, create the process how she wanted it to be, envisioning the whole separation and moving through the process with the children and with the spouse, and moving through that process, envisioning how she wanted it to be, so different things like that.
Yeah, so no matter where you are mentally, physically, you can start this now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't have to get ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the brilliance.
Come
of
as
it.
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this work to the world, because we need more people like you.
Thank
Yep.
you
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
true.
It
It's-
is truly a gift to me.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
pleasure having you
Yeah.
on today's show.
Yeah.
Seriously. Thank you. I know it was a treat for the audience too.
Yeah.
Anybody, this is something we can all take advantage of starting, today.
Yeah. We own
have
our
this
breath.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Own
Your
it.
breath is with you right now.
Yeah.
It's yours. Yeah.
So very exciting. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for coming on today's episode, Tanya. It was a pleasure of having you. Other than that, guys, we'll see you next week with a new episode.
All right. Much love, people.
Thank you so
All right.
much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.